Hello, welcome back to the podcast. Now, this is freedom. In this podcast, we explore what it means for different people to feel freedom because freedom comes from within. And today I'm really excited. I've got my first ever guest on the podcast, Marisse, and I'm going to read a little bit about her so that I get this spot on. So, she is the sovereign mother. She's a transformational guide for women ready to reclaim their sovereignty in marriage, motherhood, and life. That sounds so amazing. And she's also the founder of Sovereign Woman Council and other offerings that she's got. And maybe we'll get into that later on in this episode. But what she really does is she helps women break free from societal systems that try and define them. Hello, that sounds like freedom to me. And she empowers them by embracing their innate power and to live a life of alignment with their higher purpose. She's also a new mama to her third baby, so there's some beautiful coos already in this episode. I love it. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction. And yes, I definitely have my baby here next to me, and she's an angel. She's like in such a good mood. So I'm so happy about that. And I'm so excited to talk about freedom. I love that this podcast is called Now This Is Freedom, because that's probably the one topic I could go off on for hours, and why we align so well on doing a collaboration on this podcast to begin with.
Yeah, totally. Well, let's get straight into it. What is the difference between freedom and sovereignty for you? Because I use the word freedom and you use the word sovereignty.
Yeah. So, freedom has always been my highest value. And I've known that since I was a young girl. And I acted and behaved upon that by kind of being a rebel without a cause when I was younger. And so I felt that when I was growing up, I had conditions around me that felt very constrictive, like the parenting that I had, the school system that I had, the just all the things that, we grow up with. I just felt super caged and put in a box. And so there was just this part of me that was always seeking to like get out of the box. And I can recall that feeling as early as like 5 years old, basically, because that was the first time I could really see that like my parents didn't let me do things other people did. Like, I'm the first generation American, and like the very first American born in my whole entire family on both sides. So the cultural conditioning is pretty deep as well. And so freedom to me is kind of like the first step to really like reclaiming yourself and your own power. But sovereignty is this up leveling to not only claiming your power, but like reigning everything around you. Like, the word sovereign means to be one's own ruler. And, there's this term that's going around kind of in the legal sense that when you're sovereign, like nobody can rule over you. And that is absolutely true, which is an element that I bring into my space. But ultimately, I think being sovereign is like an identity that like you are the queen of your own castle, which means that whenever you are embodying this essence of sovereignty, then you're ultimately like the leader of your home, because I believe that mothers are the heart of the home, and we're actually the leaders. Although there's different jargon around saying that men lead, like men don't do anything without our consent. So like I believe that we are actually the leaders, and like that's why we have the innate power to create life. And so sovereignty really comes from us embodying this opportunity for us to be the leaders of the new earth and like bringing in a new way that the earth should be, kind of working.
What is your vision for the new earth, especially as a mother?
Yeah, that's, you know, before I became a mom, I was already pretty deep into like spiritual teachings. Like I studied yoga, I studied Buddhism, I studied the roots of Catholicism, and I've just always been kind of a seeker. Um, but it wasn't until I became a mom that all of the truth had to become like embodied by action. So like before I became a mom, it was all kind of theoretical. It was like, yeah, this is how the world should be. Like we should be nice to each other. We should like love each other. We should um, be able to choose for ourselves. But when I became a mom, I was like very much made aware that like every single action that I do affects my kids. And I wouldn't have known that till I became a mom. Like I had been a nanny before I became a mom. I've nannied like something like 40 children overall, because I started nannying and watching kids very early on in my life. And nothing prepares you for being a mother. And I think that because I had the unique experience of also being single and pregnant with my first son, um, I really had to embody this sense of sovereignty and like what a new earth meant to me. So, like, I didn't have a partner to talk about vaccinations or circumcision or like the big ideas that you start to kind of peel back the layers of the onion about, um, which was at the time really heartbreaking for me. But in retrospect, like I'm so grateful that it was only me because I took full ownership of those situations. Like um, I didn't have to like justify myself to a partner because I think that my old partner would have pushed back a lot because they were very much like mainstream people, him and his family. And my family is very mainstream. Like my whole family is in the medical industry in some form or capacity. So I'm the very first woman in my whole family that's not a nurse. And so when I became single and pregnant, I had a lot of obstacles in my way. And I think source or God or whatever your higher power is, they carved this way for me to be single and pregnant so I didn't have to like climb such a high mountain because I was able to like make the decisions and the only people that I had to fight were my family. But then when I had kids later, it was a little bit more of a higher mountain because I ended up marrying someone who's like on the path that I was on, but like 10 times more intense. So that's kind of why motherhood, I think, to me is the biggest reason. And I guess lighthouse for how the new earth is kind of ushered in. It's like we have to be able to like really claim all of our decisions. And oftentimes, like when we're just by ourselves and we're single and we don't have kids and don't have any responsibility, it's easy to say that we're like secure and like have our shit together and all the things. But when you have like another human to take care of, it really just throws everything in your face. It's like a mirror that like, if a mirror, it's like a fun house play, like mirror, like there's like so many mirrors mirrored back at you with just one child. And now I have three. So I have like all of the things. I can't run away from anything.
Yeah, I totally feel that. I mean, I have always had my partner by my side with my children, but I had my first daughter during the pandemic,
Mhm.
and a lot of people at the time were like, oh, you poor thing, you know, you're by yourselves. We didn't have any family. It was just the two of us. But in hindsight, that was really good because we had to make decisions by ourselves and we had to really narrow down on what were our values and how we wanted to raise our children without the influence of our parents. So I can totally understand that. And then it was when we finally reintegrated with our families, and it was quite triggering for us all because we were used to doing our own thing and feeling confident in what we were doing, and then they were like, what is this? You're home birthing and you're breastfeeding for like years and years, and you're bed sharing, what is all of this? And for them
Yeah.
it was, even those kind of things were um alternative.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree as well about the mirrors. I mean, my biggest shifts have come from reflecting on the fact that I have two girls and they're mirroring exactly how I am.
Mm.
And so that means I need to change so that I become who I want them to mirror. But also, when you're doing it with somebody else. So I'm interested to know more when you're having children with your partner and how that shifts things, because your children are mirroring all of your shadows that are coming up, right? But it's
Mhm.
your partner that are kind of drawing those shadows out. And if there's anyone that's going to help you grow, even though it doesn't seem like help at the time, it's your intimate partner that you're doing this with. Don't you
Mhm.
agree?
Totally agree. And oh man, that's it's a rabbit hole to go down my relationship because like I said, I was single with my pregnancy, and I actually met my now husband 2 months after I gave birth to my son, who was also born during the pandemic, by the way. Like I was pregnant during the whole lockdown by myself, so there was that added nuance to it. But when I met my husband, I was saying that like it caused a lot of triggering in my family because he's like 10 times more intense as me with our belief systems and our value, and he like I'm a little bit less like confrontational, and he's like very confrontational and direct. Like and so we have had some serious fights because of that dynamic, because he's like very direct and I'm not as confrontational, but then also with my family because we have the same values, but like I still want to have a relationship with my family, and he's very much like if they don't respect our values, like they're out. So there's been like this very interesting dance between my husband and I because we share the same values. We want the same things for our kids. Like we have the same vision for our life. But the approach for each of us is so different. And we've had to really, we've been together 4 years now. And I would say that we're just now getting to a point of like commonality and like understanding because he did bring the shadows out of me so deeply. I really felt like, motherhood had all of these mirrors that, showed me where I needed to grow, but like he was kind of the catalyst to like make me an adult. Because I think if I hadn't had met him, I would have just like been, a single mom kind of lollygagging with my kid, doing like the fun thing and like not really taking action on the values that I held in my mind. But because he was like so like steady and like so grounded in like what our values were and like really brought that to earth for me, he's really really good at making sure that like I grow. And he's also, I don't know if you or your followers follow astrology or anything, but he's an Aquarius, and his birthday is actually coming up, and like all of the Aquarians that I've known tend to be like very, they're not serious people, but they're people that are like very like mutable, right? It's a mutable air sign. They're very like elusive. But Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, who is basically like daddy. So like wherever you are not grown up, an Aquarius or a Capricorn person, because they're both ruled by Saturn, is going to mirror back to you where you're not an adult, and like make sure you grow the fuck up.
That's so interesting because I'm a Pisces in traditional astrology, but the last year I've been just following cosmic astrology, and I'm an Aquarian in cosmic astrology, which I believe is like linked to going to the new earth. And I feel like that I totally feel that daddy energy being like, okay, you need to grow up now, you know. You need
Do you
to
feel
get
like
your
that's
finances
you to other
sorted.
people?
What's that?
Do you feel like that's you to other people? Is that what you mean?
No, I feel like I'm that to myself. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's like, okay, Julia, it's time you actually do the grown-up stuff, like sort out your finances, and you've got kids now, go be responsible, get a car, you know, like those kind of things.
Yeah.
Whereas before, maybe I was a bit more dreamy and be like, I've got this big vision, I'm just going to float through life, blah, blah. Maybe that's the Pisces. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't follow too much of cosmic. I'm not familiar with cosmic astrology. I just follow kind of Western astrology and base my signs off of that. And I resonate pretty deeply with it, but I'm actually more into human design, which you and I have talked about. You're a projector as well, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a projector in Western and in cosmic.
Okay. I wonder. I'll have to look to see if there's a difference for me. But I feel so deeply the projector vibes for me because I've always been like extremely burnt out if I overdo myself, and that's like the number one projector trait. But that kind of goes into what you were saying before with like the alignment. So my husband and I actually both have almost identical human design charts, which is and we're both like very rare projectors. We're both self projectors with a 1-3 profile. And if you like lay our charts right on top of each other, they match up almost perfectly. It's so strange.
Wow. Well, that's saying something about how you came into each other's life.
Yes, it's so interesting, and it actually I think I shared a story about this on my Instagram about how like I think I got like a psychic reading because I was really into tarot at the time when I was pregnant. I was learning how to read tarot, and I got sucked into a YouTube ad for like a soulmate drawing, and it was like $5 or something like that. And I was like, oh, I'm not sure how this is gonna go, but I'll just do it because they pulled me in with the YouTube ad. They had really great marketing, and I got my like my soulmate person drawing like maybe 2 days later and forgot about it. I just kind of put it away. And then I ended up meeting my husband on Facebook date. And it was just like a message where like he and I were just chatting, and it wasn't really anything. There wasn't like sparks or anything. It was just like a really interesting conversation. And then we ended up meeting in person after I had my baby, and I was like busy. I didn't really feel anything. And then he was just like really head over heels and started pursuing me really hard. And it was maybe a month later, I like went to Colorado for my birthday, and I was like, I had this like memory of the drawing. So I pulled it out and I looked, and I was like looking at his Instagram. I'm like, holy fucking shit, this is the dude.
Wow. Wow.
It was so wild to me. So like whenever would like get into fights and stuff, I was like, but I have had so many signs that I'm supposed to stay with this guy. And every time we would like get into a big fight where we would like almost break up and divorce, I got pregnant. There was just like all of these signs that were like pulling us back together, which you know, it's on the outside, it makes no sense. It's like, that's a fucking toxic ass marriage. Like, why would you do that? But like, if you know your soul contract, there's some soul contracts with people that you're just supposed to go down, and sometimes like the universe is going to force you together every single time if you're still meant to like do work with that person. Which is kind of how like my parents' story went. Like my parents were, or my mom and my stepdad, they were married from the time I was 8 until I was 18. And then they got divorced because my stepdad cheated on my mom. And then they got back together when I graduated from college, and they've been back together ever since.
I think that's the thing that people don't understand when it comes to relationships, is that there will be challenges that come up, and it's how you address those challenges. So if you like, okay, there's too many challenges, then you break up. You're kind of avoiding the challenge. The challenge is coming up because it's showing you where you need to grow. And ideally, you find a partner where you can grow together, because you're showing each other your challenges and then your shadows, and then you're moving upwards together. But you, like you said, it might be a soul contract, and they're like, once you find the shadow and you work through it and you get to that higher level of yourself, then the contract's finished. And then, but then you could be with a partner. I feel like with my partner, we've just been through so much. And there was a period where I was like, is this it? Like, am I supposed to be with this person a long time? I think I am kind of avoided thinking, okay, I never called him my soulmate or anything like that. But recently, only like the last few months, I've been beginning to feel like maybe he is, because we've just rubbed up against each other so much. But now when we rub up against each other, I don't see it as a problem with our relationship or a problem with him. I see it, okay, this is exposing me to somewhere where I want to grow. And I feel so safe now to grow with him.
Mm-hmm.
And be like, okay, this is a rough patch, let's do it together. And to feel like he's still going to be there no matter what, especially now that we have children. He's always going to be part of my life, because we care so much. We love our children so much. We wouldn't like separate and never talk to each other. We just wouldn't get to that stage.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's how I see relationships now, is like, or even your soulmate is somebody that's coming in and it's showing you where your shadows are and where you can grow. And then when you take that assignment and you see it so objectively like that, which obviously you don't see in the moment,
Right.
and then you're like, okay, let's grow. And then hopefully you do it together. And so, yeah.
I totally agree. Yeah, it's, I think that it sometimes takes some time to get to a point of objectivity instead of being like subject in the actual challenges. When you get to that point, I think that's where my husband and I are as well. It's like it doesn't really matter what the outcome is, but we both have a mutual respect for each other, that like whatever it is, like we're going to be part of each other's lives, so it makes more sense for us to work together than it is to see each other as an enemy, because that's not helpful to anybody, and especially not to raising children together. And that's actually like the foundation of my masterclass that I'm having this week, called Sacred Marriage, or Sacred Marriage, because it's actually rooted in rage. Like your shadows, for me, my biggest shadow has been my rage, and so that's why that's what it's talking about. That is kind of the pathway to unconditional love.
Tell me more about the rage.
So, yeah, it's not something that I would have owned even a year ago. Like this year, I had been working with a couple of practitioners, really investing in myself. And the message that I got this past year was like, your deepest shadow is your superpower. And for me, it's always been rage. Like I had a really intense childhood, in my opinion, as you know, from my own perspective. But like my stepdad was a very abusive alcoholic, and I literally had to call the cops multiple times because he almost killed my mom in front of me. And that imprinted on me, this anger, because and then because he was just like very abusive to my mom, but also like to my stepbrothers and to me. And then on top of that, my biological dad just had like a baseline of anger. Like the way he responds to things is just like very bitter, angry, and like resentful. And so that is my masculine imprint. That's like the way that my masculine energy was formed and the foundation for it. And so um, when I have been studying, or since I've been studying kind of the masculine and feminine energy, I know that the masculine is supposed to be like the provider, the supporter, and like make you feel safe. And to me, like, because my imprint of masculinity was anger, um, I have this I had this belief that like anger is not safe. And so that turned into rage, because what you don't allow yourself to feel gets bigger and bigger. And so, like, I surpassed this level of anger in my body that it just turned into fiery rage. And like, I would lose my shit on my kids, on my husband. There are many times in the past where I look back on it and I was like, holy shit, like, I really went over the edge there. And even if my nervous system gets too dysregulated, like I'll pop off on my kids or my husband. And then I immediately am like, what is going on? And it's, I know, because I know I have a little bit more foresight now that like I need more support right now. Like I have basically been pregnant or postpartum for the last 5 years. And so I'm very much in the thick of like needing to rest more and needing to like be supported by a community more. Um, but the self discovery around rage has really helped to expand my capacity to hold more, because that has been the one emotion for me that has been like, in the past, like if somebody was angry around me, specifically, like I'll use my husband, I would just be like, nope, I'm out. I'm done. Can't do it. Can't handle it. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. But the more I like put my focus on the rage and just allowed myself to feel it and like notice, like, okay, I'm feeling an overwhelming sensation of like just heat. Like I feel it here in my body. I've noticed that it just dissipates little by little every single time I do that. And I don't know if that will ever go away, but I do notice that when I do focus on it and witness it and give it the attention that clearly is what was missing from the very beginning, I have more capacity and energy to actually create, which is the alchemy of the rage and what creates this sacredness about your rage. Because it turns it into unconditional love, because first and foremost, it is unconditional love for yourself. It's just like, wow, you're really feeling a lot and I'm here for you, and I'm just going to sit with you here through it, and that is okay that you feel that. I think a year ago I was still struggling to like see myself and be okay with what I was feeling in the moment. And I think that this past year has been the one year where, because I decided to go all in on myself, I was like, I'm going to do whatever the fuck it takes to be free in every single way. So I'm not going to work a job. I am going to be around my kids 100% of the time. I'm going to stick with my marriage. I'm not running away. And just like putting myself in the fire and allowing myself to feel the burn.
That is so, so beautiful. Kudos to you. Like everything, I just wanted to clap you, clap everything you were saying. Yes, 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 when you feel your emotions, then they just want to come up. They give you a message and they want to come up and they want to be seen, and then they dissipate. But also, it is the most beautiful expression of your love for yourself, because your rage is protecting you. And oh, I'm so happy that you've discovered that. What freedom is that?
Yes, and that is ultimately right, like that sovereignty. Because like when I was allowing the rage to just be there and like, you know, be overwhelmed by it and run away from it, like I was letting it control me. Like, and that's something that my husband often said. He's like, if you have no control over your emotions, then I can control you no matter what. And I don't want to control you. So that didn't like, he's been saying that for years, but that didn't really land until this year when I
Mm.
finally was like, okay, yeah, that is very true. I can feel that truth in my body. And it's just, like you said, the most beautiful form of love that you can give to yourself, because it also, like, once that dissipates, like there's more space, and more space to create, more space to be present for your kids, and it just creates the life that you actually want to have, because you don't have so much like heaviness focused towards what you don't want.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Beautiful. Hey, I've got a lot of construction going on outside, and I've been mindful of it this whole time we're talking, but hopefully the listeners were okay with that. So I wanted to ask you if you've explored at all. You mentioned that, witnessing the dynamic between your stepfather and your mother imprinted this rage inside of you. Have you ever explored like ancestral rage, like the fact that your mother was in that relationship in the first place, and then what happened along the female line for, where the rage with the anger was suppressed? Maybe you were like, can I suggest something to you? I don't know if you've thought about this,
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
that your soul has come into this time because you have the capacity to feel all the rage in your lineage. So you're angry not only for your mum, but all of the women before you. And so you've just got this fire burning. Have you ever thought about like the ancestral um, anger that is in your DNA and that hasn't been expressed?
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually am very I've always been very curious with my mom, and I have such a fortunate like opportunity to learn from my mom because she's so open about like everything she's been through with me. Um, because I think a lot of the anger that I have is primarily from her. Like I have a really close relationship with my grandmother as well, and she's a Pisces as well, and she's literally watching my kids right now. She's the sweetest, like most loving woman. But I know that like my mom lived in the Philippines, and my grandma came to the States when she was about 5 or 6 years old. And so my mom grew up without her mom for a long time. And I know that in that time she was also like sexually abused and like went through a lot. And my mom actually got thyroid cancer when I had left for college. And we all know like the thyroid's right where the throat chakra is. And she's one to be known to like suppress her emotions and not speak up. So I know that there has always been rage within her that like lived in her body. And she also told me when I was leaving for college that she only married my dad because all of her friends were getting married. And like my dad is like very, to me, he's definitely like a closeted gay man, and he will never probably ever say anything out loud to anybody because not only is he a closeted gay man, he's like Catholic and a Republican and like just puts himself in like all of this box. So there's my mom's side, and then there's also my dad's side where I feel all of the rage is like being channeled through me and being released through me. So that's why I think I have so many layers and why my rage can get so big. Because in the past, I've been so like taken aback and shocked by like how big my anger is. Because I kind of like, I look back at it and I'm like, okay, like I have had like a really like toxic and shitty upbringing, but like to this extreme, like I feel like I've done a lot of work. um, and it just feels like it's almost never ending. But to bring it full circle, my daughter, whom I orgasmically and painlessly free birthed in November, is a quadruple Scorpio, which we all know is like the fiery water sign. And she is a manifester in human design, which their like not self theme is anger. So anytime I get angry, she like loses it. And so there's this beautiful dance between like me and my daughter where I think that she's going to be the energy that really helps me ground into my anger and allows me to transmute it completely, because I do not want her to have the rage that I have felt in my body, which I think, because I've already taken the steps forward in this path, I don't think she'll have.
That's beautiful. I love that you're already looking to your daughter as your teacher. I do that too. They're so young, and I think that they have definitely come to teach you a lot of stuff, especially at the beginning of their life. And then whatever happens at the beginning of their life is to teach them later in the life. And it's just like all interconnected. So that's really nice. Do
Yeah,
you want to go into it all about like the physicality of your rage and how that comes up in your body?
totally. Yeah. So since I was little, I'm pretty sure since I was a baby, the anger in my body manifested as eczema or like rashes all over my body. And in the last couple of months or so, I explored deeper into like homeopathy and German new medicine, and the back or the foundational like idea behind why we have symptoms are related to conflicts that happen to us like early in our life. And for rashes specifically, it's a separation conflict. And so that means like at some point there was like something that made you feel separated, that caused a trauma, that allowed your body to feel like dysregulated, and it manifested as a certain symptom. And for me, it's rashes. And so when I found out that information, I got really curious about like where I have felt separated in my life. And I had to go deeper and deeper and deeper into my timelines about it. And what that led me to was this memory of my birth. And I felt, I like went into this scenario and this body memory with a practitioner, and it made me remember how angry and scared I was when I was a baby, because when I was first born, I swallowed meconium on the way out, and my mom is a nurse, and they immediately put me in the NICU. I was like separated from my mom for almost 2 weeks, and she was like super depressed, and then eventually she wasn't able to breastfeed me, and because her milk dried up, she ended up having to go back to work. She ended up putting me on cow's milk and like formula, and I have like a very uh, sensitive body to dairy. Like if I have it, like I break out in full body rashes. And so there's this idea in German new medicine that like if there's something that is you're exposed to during that time of conflict, it's going to create a track where like that creates the same body memory as the conflict itself. And so this has allowed me to understand that like when I have these rashes, this is actually why I'm back at my parents' house right now, and I explained this to my mom and she had complete understanding of it. I was like, I think I just need to be near you when these rashes come through, because I feel like my body is like trying to resolve and come back to full circle about like needing your love and your attention and like your comfort. Which is why like as soon as I like land back at my mom's house, like my skin immediately starts healing. Like I
Oh, wow.
basically I do all my detoxes and all the things, but like there is a level of like just being near my mom like heals all the things.
Yeah. Mother's love, huh? Wow.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I love all of that stuff. I love that there's so many modalities now to help us better understand ourselves and our subconscious and our bodies. Um, I don't connect on the rage, but I do feel like my body holds a lot of grief.
Mm.
And that's not something I'm going to go into now, but I can hear all your stories and then think about, okay, my own body and how it manifests in symptoms of grief, and
Yeah.
how I feel like I carry grief from my mother and from all the women before her. So
Mm-hmm.
beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I think everybody has their own, you know, everybody obviously has their own stories and all of the emotions they hold, and it all manifests differently. So like when people come to me, like my clientele is mostly women who are trying to conceive, and so like the lack of fertility has been something that I've been interested in tracing back through the family lineage as well, because I found out like my own lineage by asking my mom like what happened in her life, and it helped me realize too that I had like a really severe hormonal imbalance. um, and I got to that conclusion because I asked my mom like about her menstrual cycle and like what happened for her in her life, and then I asked my grandmother the same about hers and her life, and like my grandma had like a completely normal cycle. She started when she was 12. She was very fertile. She had 5 babies. um, like the vaccination schedule was very minimal. They didn't really have to do that, anything like that. And then my mom, she started her menses when she was like 9 years old. I started mine when I was 8.5.
Wow.
And so that alone, that factoid alone, I was like, okay, there's something here between me and my mom's generations that I need to dig deeper and deeper into. So, yeah, with the lens of fertility, like it's always just, I always tell my clients to get more curious. It's like your body wants to make a baby. Like that's the natural
Mhm.
state. So like what is prohibiting it from that? And like more than likely it's not necessarily something physical that you can do. It's more energetic, which is why the work that I do with women is more transformational and like identity shifting rather than like physical actions that you do.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, I love the fact that you had a pain-free birth. Like, that is so amazing. My second birth was really quick, and it was like I had pain, and then all of a sudden my breathing changed, and I just felt really in my body, and it wasn't painful anymore. And she just came out in like 3 pushes.
Mm-hmm.
But I had been seeing a holistic pelvic care specialist, so an osteo that specializes in pelvic care, and I'd had internal pelvic massage between my first daughter and my second daughter. And the amount of times I had one session that was so powerful with her, where she just like pressed on one spot, and I was wailing and I was crying, and I just was like, all of this was coming out, and I had no idea why or where it was coming from. But I was just like, I've never cried so hard in my life, and
Mm-hmm.
especially in front of like somebody I don't even know that well. And then, the session was wrapping up, and she was like having to like rein me in a bit because I think I could have kept going. And I couldn't see her for like almost a year after that, because the session was just so intense that I
Mm-hmm.
had to calibrate. I had to integrate all of that. And it took me a year before I was like, okay, I'm ready to go again. Not that I didn't feel safe with her, but just like ready to go. But
Yeah.
that's where I'm like, I think that grief there's a lot of grief there that I was holding back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never, yeah, maybe that attributed to my second birth being, um, wouldn't say pain free, but significantly less painful than the first one.
Yeah, I totally believe that our births are a reflection of how permissive we are of feeling our emotions. It's not like, perfect. Like we're all resist sometimes, but like it's gonna like the amount of pain I feel that you will experience in birth is a reflection of how much resistance you have to feeling your
Mm.
emotions. And I think that that's why I was called this year to really do the work on my rage and like go into my birth trauma and like go into all of these deep, deep, dark shadows. Um, so I did a lot of somatic work. I did a lot of um, self exploration with my vagina and my cervix and um, like different like orgasming and journaling and just doing so many different things to like allow myself to feel again because I didn't know until I met my husband how numb I was. Like he really helped me see how numb I was. um, and with my daughter, when we conceived her, we were like on the brink of divorce. And that was when I decided, I was like, okay, I'm coming to terms with being a single mom again, for real this time. And if that's the case, then like I have no excuse not to like do the absolute best that I can, because otherwise I'm just going to break down and these kids won't have like a good upbringing at all. Um, so I think that that was the reason why I was able to have a completely painless birth. I will also add to like something that I felt intuitively called to do in the moment because I actually went into labor the evening of the 31st of October around midnight or so, or it was like right after midnight after that, the 31st, because she was born on the 1st of November. Um, I like went and did a bunch of my modalities that I'm like going to be sharing in the courses that I do, but like somatic based stuff, my detox program. So I did like coffee enemas and did some detox stuff, and I was called around 3 a.m. to like take some psilocybin as well. So I did like a really nano dose of psilocybin, and like when I did that, I was like, oh, like it's gonna be a fucking fantastic day. My um, mindset on it was just so like different than I had with my previous births. Like I had a pretty happy like mindset about birth with my second birth, which was my first free birth. But I held a lot of grief in my body too because I wanted so badly to have support from my family, and I grieved not having support. And so I had a very painful birth still, and then painful labor with my second son. But because I felt supported, I felt like I supported myself really well. I felt like I could really allow myself to feel any emotion without like running away from it. I was able to have that experience with my daughter, and that's actually why I actually don't want any more kids, because I kind of want to end on a high note. Um, and also, like I don't know what will happen with my body if I have more kids. I feel like it takes a really, really, really big toll on my body, and I'm a little bit selfish with my body and a little bit vain too.
Oh yeah, well, we all are. But yeah, beautiful that you felt supported in that. And I know that you were going through a rough patch with your husband at the time, but at the same time, it's amazing that you guys are back to supporting each other and helping each other through those really rough patches,
Yeah.
and that you can allow your husband to support you as well, because that's been one of my challenges, is allowing people to help me, including my partner, and
Mm.
that came up in my birth experience, but
Mm.
I won't go into that right now.
I'm so curious, but yeah, we can talk about that another day. I definitely agree that it is so important for the husband to be supportive. Like I can't even tell you how many times I've seen women who are like, can I just birth alone? Like I don't feel safe with my husband." And I felt that way with my second birth, but he was so amazing with my second birth that it helped me feel like so much more supported with my third birth because I saw how he was in the moment. It's um
Yeah, I mean, my partner is wonderful. He's super supportive. He was trying everything. It was more me being like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm a strong woman. I can do this by myself. And
oh
then
yeah.
learning some big lessons about trying to do things by myself when actually I deep down, I don't want to do things by myself. I want him to hold me and nourish me. So
yeah, I feel like this, this journey to like becoming a sovereign woman is all about softening, like leading from a place of softness, but you can't be soft until you really go into like the hard, sticky, like difficult things. Like people want to be soft, but it's like in the reality is that we have created such an armor for ourselves, which is made of steel. So oftentimes we have to go into a fire to melt the steel and the armor off because it's so just stuck on us.
yeah, I totally agree. I think that's a really nice place to end our conversation here for today, but it sounds like we could totally do another episode in the future.
I could go on forever.
Thank you so much for joining me today. So for everybody listening, where can they find you and how can they work with you?
Yeah, for sure. So thank you so much for inviting me today. I'm so excited about this conversation and so lit up and so grateful for the space. And anybody who's looking to connect with me can find me on all of the social media platforms. So Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, I believe, as La Souveraine Mère, which is French. It's LASOUVERAINEMERE. And to work with me, you just have to court me in my DMs because I kind of work with people like by referral and by feeling into the energy as a projector does. I do put offers out and like I put links out, but like the way that women work with me often are just like I build a relationship with them over time and then they just feel like I'm the right person to work with. So that's how to work with me. But as far as like the things that I have for people to get into, as you spoke about at the very beginning, I founded the Sovereign Woman Council. And the idea behind that is like when you become sovereign, you rule yourself, but like no ruler does it by themselves. Like every single ruler has a council behind them. Even the president has like a cabinet behind them. And so it is a space for you to become the sovereign woman in your life, the sovereign mother in your life, with other women who are doing the same thing in their own way. And it is something that will help you become sovereign in every aspect of your life. So sovereign in the medical space. So like free birthing, learning how to like become the nurse or person in your life to take care of your whole family. Sovereign in the legal sense. So I have women in there who are like very boots on the ground. Like they don't have a driver's license, they don't drive with plates, they don't pay taxes, and they do it all lawfully. There is the aspect of being sovereign in like your cultural identity, sovereign in your fertility, sovereign in your mind, which is something that I just started. It's like the coaching aspect for me to like really help women come into this identity space. So that's the Sovereign Woman Council. And then I'm creating a new course called Becoming the Sovereign Woman, so that it'll go hand in hand with this space and as a foundational course of like all of the things that I talked about, but in a course form. So you can get that as a wait list right now. You can just like DM me to be added to the wait list. And I have a program called Detox and Thrive, which I'm actually doing like a retreat in person for September on, where I'm going to Shoshana, which is how I like invited you into this space. She's having an event in Denver in September, and I'm going to do like a mini retreat that is all of the protocols that I teach in Detox and Thrive to help women become sovereign in their health and in their body and take really all the power back for their body.
Beautiful. Thank you. Well, hopefully the right people are coming to you because you've got the right medicine for them. And well done to your little baby. Is she asleep now?
Yeah, she's been so chill the whole time. She's honestly, she's an angel. Like I was able to run. I have these circles every single month as well, which I didn't mention. They're on the new moon, the Sovereign Woman Circle, and it's a donation-based circle for people to kind of like hop in. But the very first one that I ran was on her birthday, like November 1st. I gave birth at 8 a.m. and I ran this at like 6 p.m. And
Wow.
people were like, "What are you doing?" I cannot believe that you are actually running. And it was like a 2 hour call. Um, and she was just so good. And from day one, she sleeps all the way through the night. I have no issues with her at all. And it's just been like the most peaceful postpartum with a baby that I've had after all three of my kids.
Pain-free birth. Maybe
Pain-free
that's got
baby.
beautiful. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me today, and can't wait to keep chatting with you offline.
Yes, yes, for sure. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day, whoever's listening in, and so grateful to be here with you.